Welcome back to Stats with Stars. I'm Thomas. As we approach the midway point of the season, it's almost time for the Midsummer Classic in Atlanta. Stage one of fan voting has ended, giving us finalists for each of the starting spots across the diamond. Today, I'll be giving my starting lineup as well as the reserves I think will make the team. Before I name the team, all stats are taken as of Friday, June 27th. These are subject to change on any given day, and also eligibility for rate stats are 130 plate appearances for hitters and 75 innings pitched for starting pitchers as of June 27th. All stats are taken from Fangraphs, and wins above replacement or WAR is F WAR. So let's get into it. First, let's dive into the senior circuit. We start behind the plate. Catcher, the candidates are Will Smith and Carson Kelly. Will Smith leads the National League catchers in all the rate stats, batting average, on-base percentage, OPS, slugging percentage, as well as some other stats including WRC plus and WAR. He is tied or ahead of Kelly in the rest of the statistics such as home runs, RBIs, and runs. Will Smith is a no-brainer at catcher for me. Now, next we go over to first base. Freddie Freeman and Pete Alonso are the two candidates for the NL first base spot. Freddie Freeman does lead the NL first baseman in batting average, but past that, Alonso has Freeman beat in home runs, RBIs, on-base percentage, slugging, OPS, WRC plus, and WAR. I think both guys deserve to be in the game, but I have to give the starting nod to Pete Alonso. Keeping it going, we go to second base. The two candidates are Ketel Marte and Tommy Edman. Ketel Marte ranks first among NL second basemen in home runs, batting average, on-base percentage, slugging, OPS, WRC plus, and WAR. Marte is also second in runs um, among all NL second basemen. Edman does lead NL second baseman in RBIs, but ultimately Marte is shown to be the best second baseman in the National League. He earns the starting spot. Sliding over to shortstop, we have Francisco Lindor and Mookie Betts competing for the starting spot. Neither of these candidates lead the National League shortstops in any major statistical categories, so I had to compare the two of them against each other. In home runs, RBIs, batting average, slugging, WRC plus, and WAR, Lindor ranks ahead of Betts. Betts does lead in runs and on-base percentage, but given the comparison, I think Lindor deserves his first All-Star appearance since 2020. Rounding out the infield, we go to third base. Manny Machado and Max Muncy are competing for the spot. Manny Machado leads NL third baseman in runs, batting average, and WAR. He is second behind Eugenio Suarez in home runs, slugging, and OPS and WRC plus. Muncy has a better on-base percentage and has more RBIs. This is one of the positions where I think both candidates have a case, but I have to go with Machado. His balance of contact and power puts him over Muncy, in my opinion. In potentially the most intriguing race, we go to the outfield. The six candidates are Pete Crow Armstrong, Teoscar Hernandez, Ronald Acuna Jr., Kyle Tucker, Andy Pages, and Juan Soto. Among the finalists, Crow Armstrong and Soto are the leaders of the pack in the counting stats. Crow Armstrong is second among all NL outfielders in home runs, stolen bases. He adds on being third in RBIs and slugging, making him the first in WAR among NL outfielders when you bring in his fielding. Out of all the finalists, Soto has the most runs and home runs. Acuna dominates all the rate stats, leading all outfielders in batting average, on-base percentage, slugging, OPS, and WRC plus. The problem for Acuna is he does not qualify according to MLB standards. Tucker is second among finalists in many statistical categories, including on-base percentage, OPS, stolen bases, WRC plus, and WAR. He also logs a third place finish in runs, batting average, and slugging. Among the two Dodger finalists, Pages puts up a better case, ranking second in batting average, second in RBIs, third in slugging, and third in WAR for all the finalists. Hernandez is having a great season, but he does not crack the top three in any major statistical category among the finalists. The competition for the three outfield spots will be a category to keep an eye on. as the voting begins. But for me, Crow Armstrong is a no doubt selection. The race then comes down to Tucker, Acuna, and Soto, and Pages. And the two I think that most deserving are Kyle Tucker and Ronald Acuna Jr. Soto's on a hot stretch right now, so he may come into play as the voting goes on, and Pages is not far behind. All six finals have contention to start, and it wouldn't surprise me if any of the top five end up as starters and the other two become reserves. And for the designated hitter, in an already confirmed spot, Shohei Ohtani led the NL in voting, so he is locked into a starting DH spot. And now finishing out the NL roster, here who I think should be the reserves for the National League. The position players include Trey Turner, shortstop for the Phillies, James Wood, outfielder for the Nationals, Juan Soto, outfielder for the Mets, Seiya Suzuki, outfielder for the Cubs, Elly De La Cruz, shortstop for the Reds, Christian Yelich, outfielder for the Brewers. For the Cardinals, I have either Ivan Herrera, catcher, but he has been injured and he's on the 60-day IL, so I wouldn't be surprised if Brendan Donovan takes his spot as the second baseman for the Cardinals. Hunter Goodman is the catcher for the Rockies, representing that. Eugenio Suarez, third baseman for the Diamondbacks. Andy Pages, outfielder for the Dodgers. Freddie Freeman, first baseman for the Dodgers. And Rafael Devers recently traded the DH for the Giants. Those are going to be my projected position player reserves. And then the pitching staff for the National League looks like Chris Sale for the Braves, Cade Gibson for the Marlins, Edwin Diaz for the Mets, Zach Wheeler for the Phillies, Mackenzie Gore for the Nationals, Trevor McGill for the Brewers, Paul Skeens for the Pirates, Andrew Abbott for the Reds, Yoshinobu Yamamoto for the Dodgers, Robbie Ray for the Giants, Randy Rodriguez for the Giants, and Robert Suarez for the Padres. Next, we dive into the junior circuit, the American League. To start, we have the catcher position. The contenders are Cal Raleigh and Alejandro Kirk. As of June 27th, Cal Raleigh is leading the entire MLB with 32 homers. He leads all American League catchers in runs, RBI, stolen bases, hits, on-base percentage, slugging, OPS, WAR, and WRC+. The only category Raleigh is beat by Kirkin is batting average, but Raleigh's an MVP contender and a clear starter for the American League, in my opinion. Next, we go over to first base. The candidates are Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Paul Goldschmidt. Among the two finalists, Guerrero has Goldschmidt beat in almost all the categories, including home runs, RBIs, on-base percentage, slugging percentage, OPS, WAR, and WRC+. Again, Goldschmidt's only leading in batting average, but his decline in the last month makes Guerrero the selection for the first base spot. Moving on to second base, we have Gleyber Torres and Jackson Holliday. Gleyber Torres leads second baseman in the American League in batting average, on-base percentage, slugging percentage, OPS, WAR, and WRC+. He's ahead of Holliday in slugging percentage and RBIs, and Holiday's ahead in home runs and runs, but I think Torres earns the spot in his bounce back season in Detroit. Sliding over to the shortstop spot, the two candidates are Jacob Wilson and Bobby Witt Jr. I'm going to preface this by saying I think Jeremy Pena should have been the all-star starter here. This is the only position where I believe the starter is someone who's not a part of the two voting. But since we have the two finalists and it can only be one of the two finalists, I think it's a close race. Wilson leads all shortstops in hits and batting average and has a higher on-base percentage, slugging percentage, OPS, and WRC than Witt. However, Witt has more stolen bases, home runs, doubles, triples, and WAR. Ultimately, this one's a really close one, but I lean Wilson in his rookie season just because Witt, I think, is having a slightly down year, but I think Witt makes the team either way. Going to the hot corner, the two contenders are Jose Ramirez and Alex Bregman. This one's another relatively simple choice, as Ramirez is once again having a phenomenal season. He leads AL third baseman in hits, stolen bases, batting average, and WAR. Ramirez also betters Bregman in home runs and RBIs. Bregman does lead in on-base percentage, OPS, and WRC+, but he's been out for a bit with the quad issue, So the easy choice is Ramirez. Now heading back to the outfield, Aaron Judge has been locked in to a starting spot as he still leads the MLB in many statistical categories. He also led the MLB in voting, so he is locked into one of the outfielder spots. Among the last two spots, the four contenders are Riley Green, Javier Baez, Mike Trout, and Stephen Kwan. For the rest of the outfielders, Riley Green is second among outfielders total in the American League, behind Judge in hits, RBIs, and leads the finalists in slugging, WRC plus, and WAR. Kwan leads the finalists in batting average and on-base percentage. Baez is having a resurgent season, but does not have the statistical prowess or playing time as the other two. And Mike Trout missed some time, but continues to have this power stroke. I'm going to take Riley Green and Stephen Kwan to join Judge in the outfield. And closing out the AL at the designated hitter, we have Ryan O'Hearn and Ben Rice. This position might be the closest debate, not the most skilled, but with Rafael Devers gone to the National League, O'Hearn led the vote in the first stage. O'Hearn has Rice beat in batting average, on-base percentage, WRC plus, and WAR, while Rice leads O'Hearn in home runs, slugging percentage, and OPS. Both have aspects where they lead the other, but I'm going to go with Ben Rice in a close battle. This is one I have flipping either way if one goes on the heater, but I'm going to take team success here, and Rice being on the first place Yankees, despite the recent struggles, is will push me over. Now we look at the reserves, where I have for the position players Ryan O'Hearn as the DH for the Baltimore Orioles, Alex Bregman, third baseman for the Red Sox, Trent Grisham, outfielder for the Yankees, Jonathan Aranda, first baseman for the Rays, Brendan Lau, second baseman for the Rays, Junior Caminero, third baseman for the Rays, Alejandro Kirk, catcher for the Blue Jays, Javier Baez, outfielder for the Tigers, Bobby Witt Jr., shortstop for the Royals, Byron Buxton, outfielder for the Twins, Jeremy Pena, shortstop for the Astros, and Taylor Ward, outfielder for the Angels. And for the pitching staff for the American League, I have Garrett Crochet for the Red Sox, Felix Bautista for the Orioles, Max Fried for the Yankees, Carlos Rodon for the Yankees, Mike Vasil for the White Sox, Emmanuel Clase for the Guardians, Terry Skubal from the Tigers, Joe Ryan from the Twins, Hunter Brown from the Astros, Josh Hader from the Astros, Andres Munoz from the Mariners, and Jacob deGrom from the Rangers. Thank you guys for watching. And these All-Star votes and All-Star results will be coming in soon. I hope you see you at the next one and see ya.